Yay! Happy Sunday! 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, January 19th. So I originally had wanted to talk to folks. Actually, the purpose of the talk hasn't changed. We're still going to be talking about the TikTok ban. And I think it's really important to share that it does have an impact. And so I am saying this as a Generation X, Gen X, because a lot of people are like, oh, who cares? It doesn't really apply to me. And maybe it doesn't, and maybe you're not on TikTok. But do you know that it has been responsible for many people that I know, content creators, small businesses and businesses, helping their business. And some have actually made a living on TikTok. This is a different day and age. So I'm going to get ready to greet some folks in. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to be joined by Army Project. Hi. Army Project 529's founder, Stephanie Miller, and then also All K-Drama, absolutely Dora. I got to meet her. Actually, I got to meet both of them in person. Oh my goodness. Yes, I got to meet Sylvia Flores in person, All K-Drama, who runs the All K-Drama account. When did I meet her? I think it was July, and then I met Stephanie Miller in August. So let's see if they're joining. If I just want to make sure I don't miss it, guys. Try to join. Make sure you request to join, guys. Hello from Florida. Where are you guys? Thank you for the I agree. Yeah, because I understand some are not on TikTok, and I am not, I'll be honest, I am not active at all on TikTok. I still sometimes don't know how to maneuver things, but I know quite a few people who are, and I'm in that space. Technically, I still don't consider myself a full-time content creator or even an influencer, but I'm in that space. So I do know that it really matters. So I think it's super important to talk about, because you know what? What do I talk a lot about at the end of the day? Belongingness, transformation, inspiration this year, but the belongingness is a big part of what TikTok has done, even globally, but who I'm talking to today are specifically send it again. People are like, I sent the request. Send it again, Steph, and send it again to Sylvia, because I'm going to be speaking to U.S. content creators. We are U.S. based, right? Sometimes I'm like, I'm also Korea based, but at the end of the day, the apps that I download US based. So it was really freaky. Like, I'll just tell you on my end, going on TikTok, and there's some days I don't go on it, but I do. And then I went on it purposely knowing, and it was just really weird getting that sign of like, it has been banned. And then obviously seeing the sign today that it was back. So let me go ahead and check. Okay, let me view the requests here. Oh, I see you guys. To accept you guys. I feel like someone says here, I feel like most content creators share over multiple platforms, so I don't know the extent of the ban. Sure, I understand that. Hi,
Hello.
Sylvia. Hi, she is from All K-Drama. Let me have you on hold for a second. I'm going to get Steph because she's like, I requested. I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that. Um, Sylvia, and you are based in the
Yes,
US, but you are also, I want to say, how active are you on TikTok? Because I'm looking for stuff.
I go on it religiously, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, because I know that you have more following, or you're more, it seems like you're more active on well, maybe it's because I'm more active on Instagram.
No,
Sorry, I just
I'm more
assumed
active
you.
on Instagram too, but I do post occasionally on TikTok. And in terms of me interacting with others, I'm on it like every day.
Oh, okay. So talk about that. Tell me a little bit. Sorry, I'm going to multitask because I try to find Steph.
Okay.
Can you? I know. I'm like, hello. All you guys on here are saying hello. So I'm like, let me find Stephanie.
Hello, guys.
Tell me, because I really know that you and I were talking. Tell me a little bit about how it has been for you. It's not just about posting your own
Mhm.
content. You talked about engaging, learning from other K-drama content creators out there. I would love to hear your take on, well, what it was like as the impending ban was happening.
Right,
I would love to know.
right.
Yeah.
So before it, everybody was just posting regularly, but during the last month, I could notice like a sense of fear. I feel like in the community, I did notice a lot of editors that they were like posting more all the edits that they had. And even up to last night, like before the app actually did turn off, even I shared a post that I was like, where are we going after this? Because we obviously don't want to lose this community. But there were a lot of people that were like, no, actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to post outside of TikTok. So I was like, okay, we really are going to be losing a big chunk of our community here. Um,
Oh,
I did
yeah.
see other Instagram creators that they also posted, they're not personally affected in terms of being able to access the app, but their followings are affected. So definitely there was that sense of losing our community.
Yeah, so let's emphasize that. Stephanie, try to join again. Sorry, I can't find
I
you.
think she has to
Request again.
exit and request again.
Yeah, exit and request again. Get off my live and go back in. I promise I'll find you. It's because all you guys, thank you for all the engagement, joining and all this and saying hello. Yes, I do know that it impacts not just about followers, because yes, content creators are all
Yes.
into that, but the community. And so I want to ask on your take, because okay, at the end of the day, we love talking about K dramas,
Yes.
and also I love also talking about K-pop. But let me put that aside and wait for Stephanie. I love how even on TikTok, where and this is all everybody has their own opinion. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to say that everybody has their own opinion on TikTok. This is I always let me emphasize this Generation X. So there are times like, okay, what's the latest? How do I update TikTok? All that stuff. I still ask those
Mhm.
questions. But my kids are on it, and actually, my own husband gets lots of educational things off TikTok.
No, there's that too.
Yeah, there is that too. We'll talk that in a second. But I love when you say the community. I mean, there's a lot of people on there who actually, in some sense, there's that, of course, people saying you're on it too much. There's always moderation, but also people who found some belongingness or even purpose driven life in on TikTok, believe it or
No,
not.
yes.
People finding a passion. And so I'd love to hear your experience on what you found, because I think it's important to talk about how TikTok has impacted you, not just as Sylvia, the person who loves watching K dramas, but as a content creator. How's it inspired you?
I mean, I also started the whole building a community online because of the same idea that I didn't fit in back when I first started watching K dramas. So that was why I opened my first Instagram account. I did think that Instagram was a little more professional on my side. Like if you go through my posts, you can see that there's like a whole brand on it. I do try to stick to that. So it's a little more professional. Hello.
Hello.
Yay, Stephanie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
go on. Finish your thoughts, Sylvia. Yeah.
sorry. It's a little more professional for me on Instagram. Yes, and on my stories, I do get a little more like, oh, like these are my thoughts. This is what I'm watching. This is what I'm doing. But on TikTok, I did feel like I was able to post more freely. I didn't have to worry too much about my brand. Just more casual. And the people that I met there were obviously different from the ones on Instagram. They too had content like that was similar. And although my name is all K drama, I also did post a lot of music on
That's it.
on my TikTok, so that's why it was like merging both communities for me on there because Instagram is more of just the K drama community.
Mm.
Yeah, so interesting. Welcome, Stephanie. So sorry I
Thank you.
missed you.
That's
Hello, hello,
okay. Hello.
hello. So glad to
Hello.
see you. Happy
Yes.
Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
So Stephanie, Sylvia, if you didn't know, oh my goodness, I'm talking to Sylvia and Stephanie. Yeah, that's
Yep.
funny. Both of you, Stephanie is the founder of Army Project 529, Army, BTS Army. And so, Stephanie, I'm going to turn to you. You started AP Project on TikTok,
I did.
technically?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel about the whole thing? I was just so busy. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't check in with Stephanie. How was this all for you?
I was really nervous,
Huh?
because I had built a community there. And I was like, okay, I mean, I tried to have faith that we could rebuild someplace else, and we do have a Discord where we all interact and we do a bunch of stuff together. But TikTok is really my main way of communicating with people that aren't already part of the project and people that do different things. And so, yeah, I was a little freaked out. I mean, I had hope that if it did go away, it would come back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier today, texting, we didn't know what it would be like if it did come back. Like how changed would it be and all that. So you just never know, and
Yeah.
you can't help but kind of fear that you'll lose your people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Just being vulnerable about that. Of course, I have to ask because I want to say when you're around my age, maybe a little bit older, just a little bit. You started on TikTok though, but you are of when we say Gen X, and then we have Sylvia.
Mhm.
Not to date you, Sylvia, but Gen Z or millennial.
Much
I talk
younger.
like that. You know why I talk in generations? I study
Yes.
generations, right? So I work with
Yeah.
different generations.
Mhm.
We all are very different how we interact
Yes.
on social media.
Hmm.
So, Steph, I think it's super impressive that you started on TikTok. What made you do that? Like, what was it about TikTok?
Well, I got into BTS. Well, first of all, I kind of got into TikTok during COVID. We
Yeah.
were all so lonely. We
Yes.
couldn't go anywhere, so we just sat around on TikTok. But I had become a fan of BTS and was so lonely because I didn't have any friends that also were Army, and I felt like an odd person that I was my age and just completely, loved these seven guys, and their music and all that.
Yeah.
And so I just happened to kind of get on TikTok as a way to maybe interact with the Army that was already out there.
Yeah.
And I just happened to do a TikTok where I was joking, and the only people I had to talk to were my chickens.
Oh no.
And so that kind of took
Sylvie's like,
off.
oh,
And from
poor
that,
Stephanie. Yeah.
yeah, it's all I had was my chickens. And so that kind of took off. And from that, we started kind of building a following. And then when the guys all started enlisting, I was like, well, we're not going to have anything to do. I mean, they're not going to have any new content. So we didn't know, obviously.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
What if we, just create a community where we can be together while they're away, so that Army can stay as one and whatever. And then that all took off. But then they also gave us a lot of content. So
They did. And I
They
think
did.
Sylvia touched on something really important that you do really well too. She talked about the long form content. Well, I don't want to say long form because it's really like it's not long form like 30
Right.
minutes, but
Right.
you both take advantage of that in the sense of talking longer, right? Where social media is like quick. Has that been a great way of connecting with your community as well? Talking for, having these lives that you guys do, right? Especially you,
Yeah, we
Stephanie,
do.
on
Yeah,
TikTok.
we do two lives a week with the admin team, which is part of Army Project 529. And then I have one that I do every other Saturday with a couple of friends of mine that are more like in depth. Like we just had one yesterday where we talked about kind of midlife and is the best yet to come. And we
Yes.
kind of talked about that. So I kind of get to dive into my deeper side on Saturday mornings, but then we also dive into BTS stuff and news and current events on our other lives. And so I think TikTok is a great way to do all of the above. I think that's what kind of scared us about it. It is kind of a one-stop shop. And whereas it seems like Instagram, although Instagram also has lives and stuff like that, the feel is different, at least to me. I don't know. I mean, it feels different here than there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I agree with that. And I think that is the magic of TikTok so far. It's that you're able, like, regardless of your age, you're just able to go on there, post, and who knows if your video will do well. But once you do build a community, they're gonna be there for you. I feel like that's another thing. Followings over there, I feel they're a little more loyal. And you'll always see the same people on your comments, and at some point you just recognize them. You don't even have to see the username. You can see the picture and you're like, I already know who this person
I know
is.
who that is. Yep.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
So I mean that's super cool. I love hearing this. I'm like this is like a case study for me. No, because I like you guys know I'm more on Instagram and I find the loyal following on Instagram. So I feel like it does make sense that it might connect to TikTok, but not everybody that might be on Insta is on TikTok, right? And like I said, I literally go on it. It was actually, I'll tell you how I started, not for Nuno's Nutre or anything, to spy on my kids. You know what I mean?
That's very smart.
Like openly, like checking on.
I'm sure
like,
they
what are they doing?
you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why. And I'll be honest with you, then I kind of strayed away a little bit. But my husband will be like, oh, yeah. So what I learned on TikTok was, and I was like, what? Like, what did you learn on TikTok? So he's on TikTok a lot more. And so that's why I was like, okay, let me get on it. But yeah, no, I have found the comments a lot more. I guess there's still limits to the comments, but still a lot more in some sense in depth than people sharing certain article links and all that stuff. So I'm still getting familiar with it. I do sound like a typical Gen X, right? Oh, what
I might add too, to me it feels like when I talk about K-drama stuff, it does much better on Instagram. When I talk about when I talk about BTS, it does better on TikTok. And I think partly because TikTok is a more music based, like you do the music in the background, it's more music sensitive. Whereas I think to me, Insta is more about pictures and that kind of building it that way. So I feel like they're almost two different crowds. I don't know.
No, yes.
Yeah, but look, you know what? It's so funny. You guys are schooling me on TikTok. I'm like, really? I'm like, someone is. I love this. Someone is asking what Sylvia's account is. It's all K drama at all K drama, and then AP 529, AP 529. So or Steph at AP or at Steph AP 429. Just asking, but yeah, no, I agree with you. There, the feel. I think Sylvia said right before you came on Instagram a little bit more. Did you say like formal? Like a little bit.
For me.
It is.
More
it is. And no, I agree with you.
Sort of.
Yeah. And then some people are comfortable that's what I was comfortable with. I'm the opposite. I'm trying to get more are comfortable with the informal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which I'm good live, right? So I could do it in person, but I didn't know that it was more music sensitive. Tell me a little bit more about that because I love using music. What do you mean by that?
I just feel like, when you do a video on TikTok, you can always do the background music. And even if you turn it all the way down, it still shows what music you're playing in the background. And so I think they really push you including music in your stuff.
Okay.
Theirs, of course, I mean, they don't want you bringing in outside stuff and doing more than a minute. But so I think that's kind of how I find that. that. Now, when I'm on Insta, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when I'm on Insta, you get shorter periods of time of music, less music to choose from, less songs to choose from. But I mean, I was starting to try to figure it out because I got panicked, you know, thinking we're gonna lose TikTok,
Yeah.
we're gonna lose TikTok.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, both worlds exist fairly well together. I think you
Yeah.
can use them both. I'm like you, like I'm very informal, and so TikTok worked for me because I'll get up first thing in the morning, my hair crazy, and jump on TikTok.
Yeah.
That goes really well there. I don't think it does as well.
And that's what we love.
On Insta.
Hey,
You know?
I don't brush my hair half the time on Insta. I'm brushing
Really?
it as
Okay,
I'm
good.
talking.
That happens.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm brushing my hair as I'm talking to people. But no, I do see that. No, I do see the whole, you could go on a
Yeah.
monologue on
Yeah.
TikTok and it's 10 minutes. Like I'm still learning. But no, I will say, Steph, you can do music on Insta. Like, right, Steph? Right,
You
Sylvia?
can.
I mean, I find all gamuts of music on there, but that's just me being more comfortable. So
In my opinion, I feel like it's harder to find certain songs on Instagram. Actually, sometimes I have to go and I have to like copy and paste the Korean name of the song.
Yep.
Especially because I talk about dramas and I want to do like the soundtrack, so I have to copy and paste the
yeah,
actual Korean
the
text.
drama soundtracks, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I do that too.
But with
But you're
TikTok,
saying on
TikTok is
TikTok
like
they have all the drama OSTs?
Oh yeah.
a lot,
Usually
a
somebody has
lot.
uploaded them. Yeah.
I see.
And
Um,
it plays a huge part too. Like the song that you pick, like when I was doing all my ranting and raving about when the phone rings because I was obsessed. Like anytime you attach that OST song to it, it helps push it through the algorithm. So it uses that music to help you push out into the audience you're looking for. I think that's part of what makes it so powerful.
you know what's this turning into? This is turning into how to use TikTok for all of us Gen Xers. No. The whole point is the reason why I know I took seriously the ban. First of all, I'm talking to people who are very much emotionally affected, more on the creator side, right? And so talking to a lot of people all week, it was like one of those heavy weeks, but also like going, really is how to the very last minute you're like, the ban's not going to happen. What are you talking about? So it was a little shocker, and it maybe happened 12 hours for 12 hours for now. But even then, we don't know how the app looks, right? It's already, I think there's some things that they can't do live streams, I think they said. Right. So that's very different. But overall, a lot of folks were talking about establishing their brand. But Sylvia was talking about how the brand is more showy on Instagram, but still establishing, like, for instance, a business on Instagram. I know content creators who blew up on Instagram that are so wonderful and popular. So they struggle. So how is that on you? And maybe it hasn't personally affected you, but I just wanted to know your take on that. That people built their businesses on TikTok. Let's start with Stephanie.
Sylvia, you want to go? Oh, okay. You go, Sylvia. You go first.
I can go. So actually, I run, my brand on Instagram, and then I have TikTok on the side, but I do work with someone who built the brand off of TikTok. So personally, I had her, she actually wasn't panicking. She was like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The denial phase. And then I get the message at like 8 something. She's like, TikTok's away. And I'm like, yes, I told you. She's like, I wasn't ready. And I was like, don't you worry, I got you. I had already downloaded all her work on TikTok. I had saved everything that was needed. I was like, just in case, I had to be prepared. But luckily it's back. She's not panicking anymore. I'm not 100% sure though if TikTok is back 100% or if it's just an extension. I haven't read quite enough on that. But I do think it's very interesting, and it is very scary for the people who did actually make a brand and a business, and they do make a living off of TikTok, because they definitely were the ones that were probably panicking more than us creators, unless they do creating in business. But yeah, it was definitely a shocking moment for them. So I'm kind of glad that TikTok is back regardless. So
for now,
I just hope for now.
I always want to caution. Steph, what about you? Have you met other creators who also built their brands and TikTok?
And I, to me, I feel like, even though I'm a Gen Xer, I think that things like TikTok especially, it's a new consumerism. It's ways that we find people, we find businesses. Like there are people who don't even have storefronts, that they do all their business on TikTok and they do all their sales that way. And so that's the conversations I kept having with my husband were like, how can they close TikTok? Because so many people, their livelihoods completely depend on it. It's good. I think it's good. It gives you a different opportunity to get behind the brand sort of and get to know the creators and that type of stuff, and who you're sending your money to. And so I was really freaked out for them. I don't make any, I don't really do that. And our project does have some people that sponsor like our lives and stuff, so we make a little bit for that. but we weren't like completely freaked out. But I think I was very concerned for people. I know people who that's where their livelihoods come from. And it's people were laughing and be like, oh, don't worry about it. It's like, no, it's a big, like people quit their full-time jobs because this was more lucrative or gave them more freedom or whatever the case may be. Stay-at-home moms, a way to make a second income. And this impacts their lives greatly if this goes away.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, totally, because I would hear from people, and people would assume, Jeannie, you're in that space, so did it really affect you? I'll be honest, hello, I'm a TikTok newbie. So, or not newbie, but just not experienced. It doesn't really impact me, but first of all, I work with lots of people who are impacted by that. You said something very interesting. Stay-at-home moms or moms who are transitioning back to work, a lot of them, hello, I'm a mom who also did that, really were freaking out. And for some sense, they were the main breadwinner of the family through TikTok. So I wanted to make aware of that. If people were like, oh, who cares, the social media, I go, at the end of the day, someone just wrote up here that was something super sweet, Steph. I don't know if you caught that. They were comforted when they saw you on TikTok after the pandemic. So and I think it's really important that I see both sides, right? To have the moderate take on, there's a limit on how much, I always say limit social media, but I never will ever say get off it, because I have seen the benefits, I experienced the benefits, and belongingness and that feeling of, Korean, if we're going to talk about tongue, is so there, especially when you find a commonality of like something you're interested in, right? To when the phone rings, to K-dramas, to BTS. So that's really important. I'm reading some of the comments here so you guys could see it. Someone wrote, I am not a content creator, but I'd like to be part of the community. I'm wondering if that is acceptable. Yes. Yeah. Like so I didn't join TikTok. I joined TikTok as a mom spying on the kids. And then I ended up getting annoyed watching my kids' videos, so I stopped. I'd be like, what are you doing? Trying on outfits, whatever. That sounds, I'm such a mom. But I started following other people. I enjoy their stuff. So I'm not really on it to necessarily create. This is me. It is to see the other, like Sylvia talked about it, K-drama edits out there. And sometimes and that's why I also like limit, because I'm like, oh my goodness, this video of Yu Young Suk when the phone rings. Wow. Yeah.
How many times did I watch that now? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. And then the same video of Jimin like 10 times. I'm like, oh, let me play that again. Right? And so there's some of that there. So anyways, I wanted to bring you guys together. Now, what now? How did you, let's just say the TikTok ban happened, and it's still a little bit vulnerable.
It's still
when you had to pivot, right? You were talking about pivoting. Steph, you talked about that, and you were stressed, but not really, but okay. So where else are you on, and where else do you engage your community? I want folks to know this too, aside from TikTok.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Oh, well, I'm obviously on Instagram.
Yeah.
I am trying out different apps. I heard Blue Sky's one of them, and then there's also the Red Note one. Not 1,000% sure how the content would do there. So I'm still trying them out, because it's like the hashtags work differently, the music works differently, everything just works differently. So it's like I'm trying to see which one's gonna work better for me. But for sure, Instagram is gonna be the one where I'm gonna be most in case TikTok does ban.
And I think that's where, is that where you started as well?
Yes, it's
where did you just start? Yeah. And how about you, Steph? I mean, you're also on YouTube. You were talking about this earlier with me.
Yeah. So the project really, we're on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I think all of us are now on Instagram, all the admin team, so we can continue. But we're also doing like Threads. We're also doing X, which they're also very different platforms.
Yeah.
And then YouTube, because we can do our lives on YouTube and it records automatically, just kind of like this does, and it saves all the comments and all that. And so we're kind of making that move over. So regardless of what happens with TikTok, one way or the other, we've kind of prepared ourselves and kind of branched out some. There's no way. I mean, I would have gone from, so I have about 19,000 followers on TikTok, and I have maybe 7,000 on Instagram. So we would have lost, a lot of the following, and the project has followers too, but not quite as many, just because I was kind of around before the project was. And so I had already started building that following. And so we're trying to grow both. But yeah, I mean, that was like, people put a lot of time and a lot of hard work into building these channels and and a way to access people. And then to just have it pulled out from under you after you've spent years building something.
Yeah.
It's, it's like, it's difficult to process.
Of course. No, I mean, the word is grief. When we saw it, I mean, even I went, when you saw that notice, you're like, oh my gosh, that's creepy. There was a lot of that. And so I actually feel like it is a little bit of, I don't want to say we're traumatized from just the brief 12-hour ban, but it's a little bit weird how it happened, right?
Yep.
And then now we're back on it and it does seem a little bit different. But yeah, I still think it's important to engage on there. But also make sure you maximize on your other channels for community purposes, right?
Yep.
Keep your community, your the belongingness and all the people engaged. But you brought something up that I wanted to conclude with. What has social media, or what has TikTok and social media, Instagram, YouTube, all of that meant just in general as an army and as a K-drama fan, both of you? Like, what has it done for you emotionally? And I'm not here to talk about what we can do when we get like when we're watching too much. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm not here to talk about what it's done to benefit your well-being. Who wants to go
No,
first?
I
Sylvia.
So
go
yeah.
for it. I know you talk a lot about this, and that's the sense of belongingness, but it really is that for me. I actually have never monetized from TikTok or Instagram. I really just do it purely because I want to talk to fans. I want to share my ideas. I want to hear their ideas. Sometimes you like the same thing, sometimes you don't. And I'm always like, opinions are opinions. We respect both of them. You don't have to agree with mine. If you don't like the drama that I like, it's fine. Goes vice versa. So for me, it really is that sense of belongingness. I've been doing this since 2012, 2013. I started with another Instagram before this one. And it was always just the fact that I could have someone to talk to, because I don't have that person in real life. So for
Oh,
fans are really important. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't think you're going to reply. And I'm like, no, I really do try to reply, because this is really what I want. Aside
Right.
from me liking doing the digital creation of my content and everything, the other thing that I like the most is interacting with fans. So I really, really do thank the fact that I can at least have Instagram, at least one account, one platform to actually feel a sense of belongingness.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And you don't have people where you are. I will connect you with people where you are
Yep.
because I know tons of people in your area. Okay.
Thank you.
One note. I'll make sure I do that. Okay, Steph, how about you?
Yep. I mean, I agree. I think the community is the number one thing. And I think it's almost it sounds weird because, especially my generation, you think you're making friends through a screen. What? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But you do. Like, you build this community who you all have at least one thing in common, whether depending on what your community is. And from that, around that, these amazing friendships form. And this, for me anyway, a great community is formed. I never would have had that had it not been for TikTok.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of me stepping out. I was going through some stuff in my life where I didn't feel great about myself. And I was like, you know what? The way I'm going to overcome this is just put myself out there, even if I'm the only one. And then what I realized through all the comments that people share, and I'm sure you guys are the same, it's like people are like, oh my gosh, you and I think the same way. You're just like me. And that's all it takes. And then you're like, okay, we can be best friends. And the
Yeah.
community grows. So
Oh,
none of us are
I mean,
alone. None of us are
that,
alone.
yes, you don't. The whole point is you are not alone. You
Yes.
find that what's the word? A lot more similarities than differences, I
Mm-hmm.
want to say. And then I had to bring this up that I totally forgot. Hello, we're talking about Korean content. We're talking about BTS. We're talking about K-pop. We're talking about K-dramas. On the flip side, folks will have missed you guys. On the flip side, people in Korea, or if you have a global following, I mean, I did, so I do. So I'm like, people are like, oh my goodness, people in Korea are like, so US, bye-bye. We're kind of
Bye.
sad. The US is huge. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
No,
We're a huge
saw the
market.
meme-
Yep.
I saw the memes. I saw a lot of Korean creators. They were like, where are all the Americans? And I also,
There,
since I'm
there,
Hispanic, I
there's
also
a
get
funny
those.
Squid Game meme. Did you see
Yeah.
the Squid Game meme of like Squid Game 2 where they're like, hello, can Canada wake it up going, hello, where's everybody? They've all got. But I wanted to share that on the flip side, people also, we may have depended on it on just our communities and even like people having businesses on TikTok. But on the flip side, people also enjoy conversing and interacting with Americans, right, on
Yeah.
TikTok. And so let's not forget that because there's a huge community that's global. And I know folks in Korea were like, what?
Yeah.
What? The US? It's a big
It
deal that it
makes
Yeah, I
was
think
going to
they
be
weren't
banned,
aware of
it
the
makes
extent.
the world feel not so small and not so separate, right? We
Yeah.
can have things in common with people who live literally across the other side of the
Yep.
world.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that, to me, that's a very powerful thing, because then you don't feel like you don't know each other. And because sometimes it's easier to dislike people that you don't understand and you don't know. But what social media does is it connects everybody and makes us realize we're more alike than
Yeah.
different.
Hmm.
And I think that's
Yes.
powerful.
Yes. And then I also want to end by saying the favorite line from my tour, which by the way, Stephanie's gonna be on my tour in September. Yay, with her group. Yeah, that's a little fun thing there. We can't wait. But I'm gonna say the fun thing that people say on my tour is, by the way, yeah, I'm going on a tour to South Korea with somebody I met on Instagram. I mean, it's like saying, oh, by the way, I'm going on tour with Stephanie from AP Project, and yeah, I met her on TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean,
Never on
but
TikTok.
let's not. And we had friends who actually cracked up, going like, that's what you have to hear. I go, yeah. And family members were like, who is this girl on Instagram? Who's right? And they might
Are they
say, who's
real?
Stephanie? Who? Yeah,
Yeah.
who's Stephanie on
Uh-huh.
TikTok? I'm sorry. But why am I bringing that up? Because that's pretty powerful. That is the belongingness that we experience
Yep.
virtually before
Yep.
we ever get to meet on purpose. And actually, some people may never meet in real life, but you still
Right.
feel that strong, like that. What do you call the bond, right?
Yep.
And the chunk that I know that you guys feel on both your communities. So, any last words? I didn't want to like go for an hour. I know Steph has a live too. Any last words as I look at comments? Anything you want to share with your communities here?
Go
Anything
ahead, Sylvia.
encouraging?
I
Steph's
guess,
like, Jeannie, why Jasta?
I guess like you said earlier, just not feel alone. You can reach out through an app. As crazy as it sounds, if the person has, similar interests as you, I think it's okay to reach out. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach out to me either, or like anyone. If you're an army, if you're a drama, whichever. Because I guess it's better to have maybe an online friend than to think you're alone. I think that's very. I know some people were commenting that they personally don't like content creation or they don't want to do it. You don't have to do it, to reach out to us. You really don't.
Yeah.
You just
Reach out
leave
to
a
me.
like.
Because every time I'm like, I got to record a reel. No, I'd rather go live every day,
No,
Yeah.
that's the beauty, I think, of it. You have the freedom to do that. You could do a post, you could do a live stream, you could post a pre-recorded video, whichever it is. I think it's all great. So
Yeah.
definitely, continue to follow your interests and just don't feel like you're alone.
Oh, those are great words.
I would say, especially if you're Army that are watching, one of my favorite things we've done as a project is we have what we call the Moss City map. And you can go to ap529.com/map and just add yourself to the map. We've got over 5,000 people around the world that are part. And what you can do is you put your social media handle, and then you can find people either in your area and connect with them so you aren't alone. Or like, let's say we do have people do this. If you're traveling somewhere, you find people in the place where you're going and you connect with them.
Wow.
And it's been a fantastic thing. And a lot of people have met through that. And it's very, you don't have to reach out to anybody, but you can kind of get an idea if there's anybody in your area that's also Army. So.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. And that's so huge. So we'll have to do that for Sylvia. If you're, I'm sorry, you're in a big K-drama state. I'm just saying, or city. So I'll make sure to connect you. You guys, thank you for joining me live. And I just look at all the purple hearts and comments. I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions. But no, my purpose of doing this live is to talk about just what TikTok or its social media has meant to our communities, how it's brought all of us together. I became friends with you. Well, I think Stephanie through TikTok, but then Sylvia through Instagram. And so that is really important. And so I don't want to like underplay that or underestimate that. And so that's why we're here. Anyways, happy Sunday evening. Thank you guys. Keep in touch. You guys, of course, you'll know where to find us. TikTok,
Of course.
Instagram.
Yep.
Need more Instagram. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.